Hello, my loves, and welcome back to the show. Today, I have Nicole Kalil on the podcast. I loved our conversation. I always know it's a good one when I'm taking notes and I'm getting like body chills as I am interviewing someone. You know, it was interesting. I didn't realize that the content would go in this way, but our conversation was all about what I feel very excited about these days is the duality of feminine leadership and masculine leadership together, not us women trying to be men or vice versa, but it's like the duality, the coherence. So this conversation is all about how do we really, truly honor our natural intelligence as women? How do we trust, when we're making these big moves and when we're building our businesses and on this personal and spiritual development journey, how do we truly trust not only the divine, but how do we trust ourselves? We talked about the confidence builders, the 5 different confidence builders. And one of my favorite takeaways from our conversation was Nicole saying that confidence is not a feeling, it's a choice. And I talk a lot about choice, the power of choice. When we are decisive decision makers and we have a dream and we just, this is what I'm doing, this is what it looks like, we just really, truly begin to set ourselves free in such a beautiful way. So we talked all about that. I know you're going to enjoy this episode. I am also so excited, so happy to announce that the Life Mastermind, my high-end mastermind, is finally open for applications. So a lot of you guys are like, well, how did you come up with that name? And LIFE is an acronym for me, which stands for lucrative, impactful, fun, and easy. And I believe we get to make millions of dollars and impact millions of people. And it doesn't have to be through this lens of force and hustle and resistance. It's like, how can we do big things in the world? How can we activate our hearts and open our minds and really tap into the energetics, the natural intelligence in our body to begin to build our life, build our businesses, build who we are? And so the Life Mastermind is part somatic healing and part business mentorship. You will be in a community of like-minded leaders and light workers who are all here with a similar vibe, a similar vision to raise the consciousness of the planet and tap us into our deepest why. And from there, letting our why be the fuel, our life force to build the most incredible and miraculous thing. So if that calls to you, you can head on over to pausebreathwork.com/mastermind. You can apply there, and I'm excited to see if it's a fit for you. All right, let's dive right into today's episode. You are listening to The Sam Skelly Show, your top spot for personal and spiritual development. This show is all about busting through illusions that keep us stuck, questioning the narrative on human existence, and constantly choosing to live life by design and not default. I have worked with tens of thousands of people across the globe and will be sharing the most effective and profound tools for happiness and fulfillment. I'm stoked you're here. My promise to you is this show will support you in becoming the most embodied, aligned, and fulfilled version of you. All right, let's go. Nicole, it's so great to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
What's the number one thing making you feel most alive right now?
So I just shared this with you. I am going on a little mini retreat, a little restore retreat in the next few days. And I have been counting down the minutes because for me, it's just a chance to get quiet with myself and listen to the inner knowing that I know is there and I know is speaking. But with all the noise and busyness of life has become a little harder to hear. And frankly, I haven't been setting aside the time to listen. Mm-hmm. So super excited about this opportunity. I'm excited to see and to hear what she has to say about life and what's next and all the things.
I love that so much. Taking solo time is something that I am this year was so committed to doing because it's interesting. There's this knowing that there's this inner knowing, but when we don't carve the space for it, the voice and the noise of the world takes priority over the whispers of the knowing and of the intuition. And when we have those days where there's white space on our calendar and there's no one annoying us and there's no one asking us for shit, then that voice is like, oh, here I am. And I find it's in those moments. There's a spa here in San Diego that I go to, and I'll literally book the 7:30 massage in the morning. And I will stay there, I shit you not, for 12 hours with no phone, just a notebook and my thoughts and my feelings. And I'll just go through, I'm like a huge cold plunger. My audience knows this. Yeah. So I'll just go from like the cold plunge to the sauna, to the hot tub, to the cold, like I'll literally just do that all day long and maybe have a margarita or something. But it's like that spaciousness that allows the intelligence to come through.
Yeah. So, I don't think a spa is necessary, but for me, I wanted it on this trip. And so I booked, but I basically did the same thing. I called and I was like, just line it up, like whatever all the things are. And like, they do like a sound therapy. I'm like, yep, I'll do that. And like a milk and honey something. And I'm like, yep, sign me up. I just, there's one day in my 4 days, but I cannot wait.
A spa's always necessary for me. I'm like, that's a requirement. I need it.
It's always a good idea anyway, right?
Exactly. All right. So you have this brand new book coming, or that's out now, Validation is for Parking. What was the inspiration behind that? And what is the message that you're excited to share with women and with the world?
Yeah. So I would say the reason I wrote the book is a fewfold, as is true for all the things that we do. Number one, always wanted to write a book. It's been on my bucket list forever. I'm an avid reader. So it's just, something, a desire. The second thing was, as is true for so many of us, I found a passion, a mission, a purpose that stemmed from a period of time in my life that was really painful. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was a time where everybody thought I was this confident, independent, successful woman. And on the inside, it didn't match at all. I didn't know what confidence was, just knew I didn't have any of it. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, the reason it's a book for women is I had read a stat about a year and a half ago that 92% of business books are written by men. And I also know, as so many of us go into our professional lives, often our leaders, our mentors, our trainers are men. And so we're learning so much about what it is to be professional, to be successful, and to be confident from the masculine lens. And I am not anti-men. I believe the masculine perspective has its place. I just think what's missing is the balance of the feminine. And so I really wanted to delve into what confidence is, what it isn't, and how we build it with the feminine and the experience of women in mind.
This has been a conversation that I've been deep in for many, many moons. When I first started my career, I hired all of male mentors. I did all male things. I went to those digital marketing conferences, which I'm sure you've been to, which are just like... It's just a bunch of, excuse my French, dick swinging, if I'm honest, right? Yeah. It's like, how big is yours? Well, how big is yours? And it's like, I'm like, where's the art and the creativity and the heart and the innovation and all of this? And so I've been in the conversation with a lot of my girlfriends and a lot of my peers of the recreation of what it is to be a woman in business and how we can generate millions of dollars and have massive amount of impact, not through doing it in the dude's way, but through honoring our own intelligence. In fact, it was the inspiration for this mastermind that I'm launching called the Life Mastermind, which literally launched today, which I'm stoked about. And it was like, there's a next cut for us. Like, it's not about doing it like a man. It's about finding that unique intelligence and honoring our pacing and honoring our cycles and honoring the fact that we're these energetic beings who have the capability of like attracting so much. So, but it requires us to let go of needing to be validated.
Absolutely. And it requires us to let go of overemphasizing those more masculine traits and really trusting and honoring what is authentically me, authentically you. And I think this is an opportunity for everyone of any gender, not just for women, because I really do think the most productive, the most impactful, the most profitable is going to include a balance of both.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally think women are a little bit at an advantage here because we've had to embrace the masculine for so long. So we figured some things out there. I think if we balance it, if we bring it together with the more innate feminine traits that we have, sky's the limit. I just think there's so much potential and so much opportunity there. And I think we are so confused, specifically as it relates to confidence. That's what the book is about. But what confidence is, how it shows up, what it looks like, because we've experienced and seen it and from mostly the masculine lens, and we're getting false and mixed messages everywhere we look, whether it's advertising, social media, I mean, you name it. And I believe from the root of the word, confidence is when you trust yourself. And if confidence is trusting ourselves firmly and boldly, that means bringing all of our unique abilities, talents, superpowers to the table in anything that we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's probably one of the most common questions that I get from my audience is, how do I become more confident? So if you were in a elevator with someone and a woman came up to you and was like, oh my God, Nicole, how do I be more confident? What would you tell them?
Yeah. So I have identified what I call 5 confidence builders. And I would probably rattle those off really quickly, but as is, true for anything, there's a deeper element to each of them. So the 5 confidence builders are action, failure, giving yourself grace on the journey, choosing confidence, and building it internally. So I'll dig a little bit deeper into each one and happy to answer any questions. But I think, especially as women, we do this thing where we want to feel ready. We want to be 100% ready before we'll do something, or we'll risk, or we'll put ourselves out there. And the reality is that's doing damage to our confidence. Action builds confidence. It's little risks built up over time. It's putting one foot in front of the other towards what matters. So getting into action, we can't think, we can't hope, we can't fingers and toes cross our way into confidence. We must act our way. And I don't mean act like fake it till you make it. I just mean being in action. If we're in action, the inevitable thing is we'll make mistakes. We will fail at some things. Things will get a little messy. We might, experience some fear or doubt or whatever the case may be. And I think understanding that all of those things are confidence builders, even though everybody tells us to avoid them at all costs, is so important.
Well,
Understanding
this is good. Sorry.
Yay, good. Okay. Yeah. Fear, failure, any of those things, they're all neutral events. I know they don't feel neutral when we're experiencing them, but they are. The way we know this, if we lined up 10 people and had them experience the exact same failure, I put that in air quotes, we would have 10 different interpretations, 10 different perspectives of that same event. And so what that tells us is that we are the ones bringing meaning to each event. And so if failure is neutral, what if we chose to see it as a gift, a lesson? A one door closes, so many more can open, a redirect, something along those lines. So the thing with failure being a confidence builder is understanding that we have the opportunity to bring a more productive, more empowered interpretation to any of those events. So that's the first part. The second part is trusting yourself. Confidence is about trusting yourself when everything is going to plan, according to plan, when you're achieving, when you're winning. That's pretty easy. It doesn't require much from ourselves. Trusting ourselves when we're experiencing failure, when things get hard, when we're in fear or doubt, that's where the real magic happens. That's where deep, meaningful, lasting confidence gets built. So I'll pause there, but I think that was a long elevator ride, right? But I just those 5.
We are going 52 floors, everybody. Yeah. My body, like literally as you were sharing that, there were so many like, oh my God, so exciting. I like one of the reoccurring things that I'm hearing you say is trust.
Yes.
And I agree with you. I think if we can cultivate trust when our reality looks like we're heading to Shitsville, that is one of the most beautiful things. Like, there's been multiple times in my career where, say, I've been in a launch for something and I am so far off of my goal, it's absolutely ridiculous, but keep holding the vision. I keep trusting that it's happening versus going, oh, it's not happening. Let me collapse back into this like land of predictability. Oh, there's only 2 people signed up and I wanted 20. Like, damn, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, and that is that feminine leadership and that feminine essence that we actually do have in abundance, and it's very natural for us. We've just lost touch because we've been doing it in more of a masculine way. So I love that.
Yeah. It's, I mean, easier said than done, like so many important things. But I mean, if we don't trust ourselves, who will? And it's really hard to trust and build trusting relationships with others if we don't first trust ourselves. So I just think there's so much tied to this. And then the reality is we're getting so many messages that says confidence is something different, right? We get the message that confidence will come to us if we buy this thing or achieve this thing. I call it the false equation of confidence. And it usually goes, if X happens, then I'll feel confident. So X could be, if you meet the person of your dreams, if you get the promotion or achieve a certain level of income, or a certain amount of people sign up for the course, or you get a certain amount of followers, or you have perfectly behaved children. If X happens, then I'll feel confident. The reality is that formula will never work, because what it has us do is not build trust in ourselves. It has us become addicted to X. Right? So like if my X is, if I lose a certain amount of weight, then I'll feel confident. I might lose that weight. I might feel temporarily happy, but then we all know what comes next. Oh, I just need to lose a few more pounds, or I need to, I wish I had bigger boobs, or I wish this, or it's an important distinction that confidence isn't out there. No one or nothing is walking around with your confidence outside of you. It's not your job to find them. It's not your job to buy it or have somebody give it to you. Your confidence only ever always lives inside, and our opportunity is to cultivate it and build it.
I heard you say in the 5 steps, maybe it was step 4, if I'm remembering this correctly, but choose.
Yeah.
There's like a real power in that. And I think when I look at my life and I look at some of the things that I'm up to and some of the things that I'm doing, and people are like, how are you doing? Like, what? How are you? And I'm like, I just decide. Like, I decide in advance that it's going to work. And I decide in advance that I am the one for that. That's it. Like, I just decide, and no one gives me permission. I don't have to ask anyone. And it's like, but like, I'm like, hey guys, do you know we all can do this? Like, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Like, we all can do this. Like, deciding like that mission that's on our heart, that thing that we want to go after, that thing that we want to ask for, like, we just can decide in advance. Like, this is the vibe. This is what's happening.
Yeah. Well, right there, that's such a powerful demonstration of confidence, trusting yourself. And when you trust, it's, that's choice becomes the next logical step. But I wanted to make that distinction because so many of us think confidence is a feeling. It's either a feeling we have or we don't, or we were born with or we were born without. And I really wanted people to understand that it's a choice any one of us can make anytime we want. And there's so much power in that. And the reality is a lot of us are doing this more frequently than we give ourselves credit for. If you think about if you had a bad day and you need to go pick up your children, a lot of us will figure out how to dust ourselves up and show up as our best version of ourselves. Or if you had a bad meeting or a bad interaction with somebody and you have a next interaction coming up, a lot of times we'll figure out how to clean ourselves off and show up differently. And so just that distinction and understanding that we get to choose confidence. And like anything, the more you choose it, the more you practice it, the easier it gets, the more powerful it becomes, the stronger it becomes, as opposed to, I think a lot of us, hope confidence will arrive. Like, oh, I hope I feel confident before I do this thing. And if I don't, then I probably won't do it. As opposed to the power of, like you so beautifully said, we get to choose it.
Mm. So if that was to be on a bumper sticker, it's confidence is not a feeling, it's a choice.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. I like that. I like that reframe. I have actually never thought about it in that way. Yeah.
It's exciting and powerful, I think. And good news for those of us who, wherever you're at on your confidence building journey, if you thought it was a feeling, then you're sort of, I don't know if victim's the right word, but you're waiting for it to arrive or not. Or if you think it was something you were born with or born without, like there's not much you can do about that. But when you understand that it's a choice and a skill you can develop, then it gives us all the opportunity, all the power back.
Mm. I just thought of something funny. Like there's things in my life that I'm like ridiculously confident about for no reason. Like I have no reason to be that confident about some things, but then there's some other things in my life where I don't feel confident at all.
Yeah.
And it's like it's curious to me as we're moving through this. Like the other night, so one of my goals that I want to be better at is I want to be better at cooking, but I don't have that much confidence in the kitchen. Like Eric, if Eric had it Eric's way, he would like have a home cooked meal every single night. And like, that's just like not, it's not fun for me because I'm not confident in it yet. But then there's things like surfing where, I'll just go out there and I'll just like I have no reason to be confident at surfing because like I suck. I'm okay, but like I'm not that good. But I'm like going out on like the 8-foot waves and whatever. I have so much confidence. And then with business, I have so much confidence. I'm like, yeah, I'll invest, $500,000 over here and see what happens. Like I got a lot of confidence with business. Like, and I think that's why my business continues to grow. Cause I'm just like, that's going to work. Of course it's going to work. So I'm curious as I'm like naming this, there are elements of my life. Cooking's just one of them. There's other areas of my life that I don't feel confident in. Is there any way that we can like borrow the confidence that we have from other areas of our life? Like, do you know what I'm saying? Is there a way that I can I'm curious your thoughts on this.
Yeah. So first, your experience is completely normal. 80 something % of people say they feel confident in some aspect of their life, but not in others. And I also think there is an element of confidence and competence being exchanged here. And I want to be clear, there isn't a question of which comes first. This isn't a chicken or egg conversation. It's always confidence on the road to competence. So if we take cooking, if at first do you really desire it? Do you really want it? Because, sometimes we go into things and we're like, I'm not confident I can do this. And what we really mean is I don't really want to.
I think you just found my problem. I don't want to do it.
So maybe confidence in that looks in the, you know what, this isn't for me and I'm not for it. And so if home cooked meals are important, then I'm going to trust myself to figure out a different way for that to happen. So, that could be an example. But if it's something we desire, so for example, business, or if whatever, fill in the blanks, assuming we desire it, understanding that choosing to trust ourselves will come first. And that can look like, hey, I'm not good at this yet, but I trust I'll figure it out. Or I trust I'll be okay even if I'm not good at this. I trust that I'll find my way, or there's just so many different ways this can play out. But especially as women, we have a tendency to exchange confidence and competence. And the reality is we can't be competent at anything the first time we try it or the first time we do it. It wouldn't say very much about what we were doing if we were great at it right out of the gates. Competence takes time and experience and knowledge and all of those things, and it grows over time. I go back to confidence being a choice. I trust myself that I can learn this. I trust myself that I'll figure it out. I trust myself that because this is important to me, I'm going to make it work. And then also, I define confidence in my book as when you know who you are, own who you're not, and choose to embrace all of it. So if we look at the cooking thing, maybe, and I don't know, only you know this, but if cooking might fall in the owning who you're not part, as opposed to,
Yeah, I love that
Trying to
distinction.
force yourself to become confident in that area.
I really love that distinction. As you name that, one of the things that so there's something that I'm like really desiring that I'm feeling not confident in. And I'll just name that. Because that makes a lot of sense with cooking. I think at the end of the day, it's like, I don't have like a deep desire to do it. You know, there's other things where I'm like, oh my God, I just want to spend the next hour like writing poetry, you know, like that's what I love and all these things. So it's an interesting distinction. I'm grateful that, hey guys, welcome to my therapy session. Here we go. But so
I love that.
Yeah. A project that I'm working on right now, which is incredibly exciting. And it's something that I've always wanted is I'm in the process right now of creating a breathwork documentary. And so I'm very used to being on this side of the camera, if you know what I mean. Like growing up as a child actress and a dancer and a stunt double, I grew up on a movie set, you know, my whole life. And so that feels really easy. But then there's like, now I'm in the producer director role of this project, and holy crap, it's really like pushing me to be like, no, Sam, you get to do this. You are the one for this. And that self-trust, you know, it's like, I trust that when I show up and have this meeting with this network, like I just trust myself that I'm going to be able to handle that. You know, it's interesting with my work at Pause, you know, teaching my certifications and doing the app and training my team. And I'm very competent and confident. So that's just like easy. With this, it's like different. And I'm like, whoa, I got to learn some new skills here. So
I would submit to you, and confidence being a journey, I think is really important. Nobody is confident 100% of the time, unless they're a narcissist. And I don't mean that flippantly. Like that just isn't an available option for most of us. 100% confident 100% of the time. But what I hear when you were saying is when the doubts come in, you choose to trust yourself. When you're doing something you've never done before, you choose to trust yourself. And maybe most importantly, unless I'm hearing this wrong, you're doing it. You're in action towards it. So I would say you're demonstrating confidence quite a bit. Sometimes I think we think we're supposed to feel confident all the time if we're truly confident. And that's not, at least not my experience. I think anything worthwhile, anything worth doing, anything big typically comes with, maybe not equal parts, but a lot of excitement and energy and a lot of fear and doubt. It's the choices we make in that experience that I demonstrate the trust in which we have. So the fact that you're doing it, the fact that you're telling yourself these things, to me is a demonstration of confidence. Again, I like words. I look into the meanings of words. Confidence is trusting, not necessarily knowing.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's really, really good.
Okay, good. So
yeah,
I trust because you trust that you were meant to do this. That's how I felt about the book. Like, I don't know, who knows how it's gonna land with sales a year in. Who knows if I've hit quite a few goals at this point, but I didn't know if I would the day that it launched. I don't have all the reviews in yet. Like, I'm sure there's going to be some 1 stars and whatever. But at the end of the day, I trust that I was supposed to do this. And I trust that I wrote the very best book that I could, given the information, experience, and knowledge I had at the time that I wrote it. And I trust that it'll impact some people, not everybody. And I trust that it's not meant for everybody. I'm not meant for everybody. And I trust and I trust and I trust. And the knowing part is kind of coming along the way. But in the interim, confidence is trust. So that's the option I'm choosing.
I love that. I love that. It's like, because if you're not going to choose to trust, then what's the point?
Right.
It's like we're setting ourselves up for failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I had a work goal that I didn't achieve. And, you could go, well, did you trust yourself then? And it's like, yeah, I chose confidence. I trusted myself. But what I didn't do is I didn't stop to think about whether I really wanted to do this, whether the goals were
Oh,
meaningful for
that's
me. So
good.
for me, it was launching an online course. That was never really a desire of mine. But when 2020 hit, and as a speaker, that really impacted me in my work. I did a hard pivot and tried to launch an online course without stopping to think, is this what I want to do?
Mm.
Is this the right choice? Am I doing it for the right reasons? Are these goals meaningful to me? And so I chose confidence, but when it didn't work the way that I wanted it to, when I didn't get the results that I'd anticipated, it was an opportunity for me to reflect and to think about, what is this telling me? What is the gift? What is the
Mm.
lesson? What is the
Mhm.
opportunity from here? And trusting myself even in that messy failure, I put in air quotes. It certainly felt like a failure at the time. Now with the benefit of hindsight, it seems totally different. But
I love
yeah.
that story. I love that story. Yeah, I throughout my career, I felt very impulsive at times of like, I'm just going to do this without it like actually landing in my body,
Mm-hmm.
really feeling into it. Is this the right thing for me? Because it's the way that creativity and inspiration works. It kind of like the way that I see it in my mind is like inspiration is like floating around and it's sort of like finding the path of least resistance, through humans because it like wants to be birthed in the world, right?
Yeah.
And it's like comes to this one and it's like I could, let me just act on that, but like no, let it drop in. Is it actually a line from me? Because it's just an inspired thought and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's mine to bring into the world.
Oh, it is so good and frankly beautiful. And I think our bodies tell us things and our inner voice tells us
Mm.
things. And the question is whether or not we're listening. So in my example, I think, that idea, that creativity dropped, but I didn't sit with it. I didn't
Mm.
ask the questions. I didn't listen. And then when it got harder and harder, and I don't mean just like it didn't feel right. I ignored it because I thought,
Mm.
oh, this is the hard part. This is where you just, stick to itiveness and be tenacious and
Mm-hmm.
outwork your problems, and that sort of masculine
Mm-hmm.
energy that I have took over. I
Yeah.
wasn't listening. That was the problem. So I wasn't trusting myself because I wasn't listening to myself.
So good. So good. I always tell people like the work that I do in the world is not behind the computer. It's on my meditation pillow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like one of my mentors, Keith Cunningham, he always says like he always talks about thinking time and the importance of thinking time. And he said most entrepreneurs, most CEOs don't spend time to actually think. And he's like a dude from Texas. So when he says think, I mean feel. But it's like carving out that time to really, feel into the things that are coming forth. And I kind of like scan my organization and I scan for like energetic contraction, whether it's in the people or the processes or the offers or like how we're doing things. I'm like, what are the things that need to be like, where do we need to have some energetic cleanliness? And then like, what is coming? And is that super aligned for now? And maybe, the other day I sent my COO a message and we've already planned out 2023. It's already like planned out, blah, blah, blah. And I sent him a message. I'm like, I got to do a retreat. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, we literally just finished planning the year. I'm like, I got to do a retreat and like at least one of them. And he's like, well, like, where did this come from? I'm like, it just inspired a day. And he's like, can you just sit with it for a week? And then if you're still as amped a week from now, like, let's have a conversation. And I'm like, oh, he
Yeah.
knows. Cause I've told him that too. Like, we just need to let
So
things simmer.
where'd you land on that out of curiosity?
I'm still in the week. I have 3 days left.
Okay.
And I'll
Okay.
tell you what, I was up till 12 o'clock last night writing the sales page copy and looking at locations. So I'm really amped on it.
Yeah.
I'm really like the vibe that I'm going into right now is supporting leaders and light workers to work in a more, work with more coherence, right? With the feminine and the masculine and like really bring that in its beauty to life. And so my mastermind, the life mastermind is all about that. And then I have this idea of a retreat called Scale with Soul, which is going to be like the same content, but like in person in San Diego. I'm like, oh, it's happening. I'm doing this.
I love it. Well, I don't know. It's interesting just watching you. You definitely came alive. The energy and the excitement is there. Interestingly enough, your windows started sort of glowing as you
Really?
were talking about it. I was like, oh.
Okay, it's a sign. I'm going to tell him, I'm going to say, listen, Johan, Nicole and I
The windows
decided.
glowed. I mean,
Nicole and I decided it's happening. Well, my career started off doing retreats, you know. I did like a lot of one-to-one coaching, and then I used to just run a monthly retreat up in close to Whistler, where I'm from, up in Canada, and it was just like my favorite thing of all time. And so I'm like, I want to go get back to it. I want to get back to it. You know, following the excitement. It always works.
Funny. I spent a lifetime avoiding retreats. I thought they were, I just had this visual of what they were going to be, especially like women's retreats. Cause, I was in finance and surrounded by that mess, and I'd like over rotated so much. And I can vividly remember my first retreat and then the women's retreats that I've done. And I cannot think of a more impactful experience and a better place to invest the time, money, and energy. It's an incredible experience.
100%. It's the most exciting thing for me. I found this like mansion overlooking the water on Airbnb last night. I was like, that's the place.
There you go.
Oh, it's so good. It's been a joy connecting with you and talking to you. Where can our audience get in touch with your work and buy your book and all the kind of fun stuff?
Yeah. So my website, NicoleKalil.com, is probably the best place to find anything and everything. The book you can get on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, few small independent bookstores, which was important to me, but it just depends on where you live. So Amazon, unfortunately, is probably the best place.
I love that. Amazon, unfortunately.
No,
yeah. I feel you. There's nothing like
I only buy my books from my local independent bookstore. So that was a hard one for me, but it is what it is.
There's a beautiful little tiny bookstore, and we have a few Airbnbs up in Idlewild in this mountain town where we live. And there's nothing like going into a local bookshop and like hanging out and having a coffee and snuggling on the couches and talking to the owner. It's like my favorite vibe.
It's my happy place. I mean, yeah, I would never move to a town that didn't have a small independent bookstore.
Yeah. So beautiful. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. It's been amazing connecting with you.
Thank you for having me and for your incredible work. Let me know about that retreat.
Yeah, I will. I totally will. All right, to everyone listening, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.